Welcome to Lesson 2.6, Solving Equations Using Multiplication or Division. As kind of a review from last video, we solved equations using addition or subtraction, and we did that using some things called the inverse operation, which, as a reminder, is the opposite of what you're doing. So for example, addition would be subtraction, subtraction would be addition, and multiplication would be division, and division would be multiplication. Okay, so the two we're going to focus on today are going to be these bottom two right here. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is go over some vocabulary terms that you're going to be seeing and hearing me talk about both in class and throughout this video. So the first one is the division property of equality. This states that if you divide each side of an equation by the same number or non-zero number, the two sides will remain equal. Basically what that means is if I am dividing 5 by both sides of an equation, or on one side of the equation, I have to do it to the other side. Okay. The next is the multiplication property of equality. This states that if you multiply each side of an equation by the same number, the two sides remain equal. Basically, if you multiply 4 by one side, you have to do it to the other side. Okay, I'm just going to jump right in and do some examples. I think that's the best way to do it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to practice using that division property of equality with this equation. I have 5y equals 100. Okay, so I have 5y equals 100. Now, I am going to do the same thing that I did in the last video, and I'm going to write out every single step, even if it seems really monotonous to have to do this. I'm going to do it because remember, I need to practice for when the big, scary, long equations come along. Okay, so just as a reminder, the goal of solving an equation is always to get the variable isolated or the variable by itself. So I want to get y by itself. So I need to look at the relationship between the number I want to get rid of, in this case it's 5, and the variable y. In this case, 5y is the same as 5 times y. So I need to do the inverse operation of multiplying, which is dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. Because 5 divided by 5 is just 1, so I'm just going to cross it out. I'm left with y on this side. And then I'm going to do 100 divided by 5. And 100 divided by 5 is 20. All right, so then my answer would be y equals 20. All right, so notice how I wrote out exactly how to do this. And I was very, very specific about what I was doing while I was solving the equation. Okay, so we're going to do one more example. We have 9x equals 36. Okay, I am going to figure out what my relationship between the 9 and the x is. In this case, it is multiplying. So I have to do my inverse operation. So I'm going to divide both sides by 9. Because according to the division property of equality, whenever I divide 9 to one side of the equation, I have to do it to the other side. So I'm going to do x is going to equal, what is 36 divided by 9? 4. So x equals 4. Easy enough. All right, so let's do a practice of doing a multiplication property of equality. So in this case, I have a divided by 7 equals 63. Now I'm going to write it in this box a little bit differently than how it's showing in this in the typed up version, just because this is typically how you're going to end up seeing the actual problem written. Okay, so just know that this means the same thing. So I have a divided by 7 equals 63. Okay, so my whole goal is to get this a by itself, to isolate it on one side of the equal sign. So what I'm going to do is I am going to multiply by 7 because what's the relationship between a and 7? We're dividing. The inverse operation of division is multiplication. I'm going to multiply by both sides. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 7. The 7's go away on this side, so I'm just left with a. Okay, now what I'm doing here is I'm canceling them out. Basically that just means that they're becoming 1. It doesn't mean that they just poof go away, it just means they become 1. Okay, and as we know, before every variable there's always like an invisible 1 that we need to make sure we know is there. Okay, so now what I need to do on both sides of my equation is I need to multiply, or on this side of the equation I need to multiply 63 times 7, and I'm going to get 441. Okay, and that would be my answer. A equals 441. All right, let's do one last example before I let you go. This one is 12 equals r divided by 9, so I'm just going to rewrite this. So 12 equals r over 9. Okay, so even though the variable is on the right side now, same rules apply. So I want to get r by itself, so I need to get rid of the 9. My relationship between r and 9 is that they are dividing, so I am going to multiply them. Multiply 9 so I can get rid of it to both sides. The 9's cancel out, they become 1. So I'm left with r on this side, and that equals 9 times 12, which is 108. So r equals 108. All right, so just to recap, make sure that when you are solving equations using either addition or subtraction or multiplication and division, please make sure you are writing out each step very carefully, that you are making sure you are looking at what the relationship between the variable and the coefficient or number is, and that you are using the inverse operations to solve the equation. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thanks.